Dan, welcome to Pod Growth Stories. I am so excited to have you here and talk about your journey with Bloomfire. You've done growth across a lot of different major enterprises, Walmart, Amazon, GE, and now you're working in AI powered knowledge management. And I think you described yourself once as like a failed psychologist. Can we start there? What does that mean?
Yeah, I can't live that one down apparently. Yeah, good to be here. Thank you for including me. Yeah, I actually have a master's degree in clinical psychology, which has served me well, I think, understanding maybe some of the choice-based things that consumers have done across those roles. I've had in
Hmm.
marketing and insights in my career, but also navigating extraordinarily complex corporate cultures at those Fortune 500 companies you've mentioned in the past. I took some of those things I think I learned as a psychologist in training and have applied them to have a very blessed career and have had success in those corporate roles. Been at Bloomfire for a couple of years now in what's ostensibly this knowledge management category, which we're honestly trying to evolve into something we're calling enterprise intelligence, which I think is that next paradigm to change as AI comes together with knowledge management, enterprise search, and business intelligence.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Just
Sure.
about this whole idea of changing the category or creating a category. I know us marketers, we love this idea. I'm not 100% convinced it's that easy to pull off where the other person also loves the same idea. How does it work? How do you evolve a category like you're discussing? I can totally see that happening too.
Let me tell
But
you, it's super easy to do in the middle of a massive economic change, too. It's great. So, I think what was happening was a lot of a lot of it for us, and I think the people we sell to were feeling it anyway. So it was this
Mhm,
idea that under the surface there was this convergence of a lot of different types of tools, right? So the way that you get information was changing. The way that you create knowledge in your organization was changing. The way that you secure that information, the way that you decide whether it was good information or bad information was changing. All we're trying to do is to one, put a name to it, right? And
mhm,
then put some guardrails around it and start to shape out a community around it and hopefully lead, right? We want to be leaders along with others in the space to be able to do that. And we have a newer CEO, Philip Bertan, who comes from Google a couple times and Thomson Reuters. And so he's done a really nice job of defining that space. I think putting a nice vision out there for what it can be and leading our company and our product team to be able to start to put that vision into action. Yeah, to your point, it's easier said than done. And as marketers, I think we put it out there, we put that flag in the ground and want everyone to rally around it.
yeah.
Like it's truth in action. But ultimately, I think the ground is shifting. And whether it's big companies like Google and Microsoft saying it, smaller companies like Bloomfire, I think the actual reality is that, that is where the water is flowing and just how long it takes to get there.
Mhm.
And it will be part of that discussion.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I guess this is also making me think about going just straight into marketing stuff. We think about unique mechanisms. We know they're really important for direct response. If you're spending money on ads, the little tweak about how unique it is will make an obvious measurable response difference. But then if you look at data from like the Challenger sale, when you're doing complex sales, the customer doesn't, they're all the same. They don't
Yep.
even know, like 14% of them remember why you're unique. So it's very interesting. How do you balance that when you're a CMO?
It's a good question. So I have good experience with challenger sales from my days selling in more of those corporate settings, right? So when I
Mhm.
was with the Berkshire Hathaway chemical company, we use challenger sales as our method. And ultimately, I actually think it comes down to the insight behind it, right? If you can capture that insight and say, hey, look, we've tapped into what the insight is behind, the reason that you're struggling with this, or here's where that opportunity lies. And here's why we believe our point of view actually matters to you. Here's why your business problem, like we help people solve this every day. Here's the value we think we can deliver with our point of view. That's what I think
Mhm.
ultimately these companies want to hear. The difference between selling into a SaaS ecosystem versus a global 2000 ecosystem is just that, right? You
Mhm.
actually do need to solve unique business problems, and you need to have that point of view and the value behind it, because that's what global 2000s have to solve. They have to see that direct line between business problem, your point of view as a solving mechanism, and then the value that you're gonna bring to them as a partner. I think
Mhm.
that's what we're trying to do, and whether it's look, right, you can come up with the messaging all you want in a new category. The reality is, and you know this, like, there's no search volume behind that new category until you
Yeah.
create it, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna go out and find it, but you're gonna
Yeah.
find plenty of search volume behind those business problems that you're trying to solve. Go after those in terms of from a macro marketing standpoint, and then on a more one-to-one marketing standpoint, demonstrate to those buyers, here's how we're going to solve it for you.
And for those who haven't heard of it, what is the Global 2000?
Just those 2,000 largest companies in the world, right? That kind of mechanism
Yeah.
of saying, like, the largest companies that are out
Fortune
there.
50,
Yeah,
the
it
guys.
just depends on how you want to cut it. I think the reality is you can say from a ideal customer profile standpoint, if you can sell into the big old and rich, that's always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's just companies that have real problems to solve and are looking for partners to solve it.
Yeah. When we look at Bloomfire, what's your strategy right now? How are you getting in front of, like, net new eyeballs? How are you
Mhm.
bringing in new customers right now?
Yeah, over the last year and a half since I joined a couple of years ago, we did have to rethink the paradigm a bit. I think we had an unsustainable model for a while in terms of CAC, as you've seen in your career. So coming back to basics, doing a bit of a brand refresh to make sure that our brand spoke to those companies that we wanted to talk to, which were in that kind of ICP. We tend to do pretty
Mhm.
well with companies in industries that had some amount of security needs. We tend to do well in finance industries, insurance industries, consumer goods, and those types of manufacturing industries, business consulting. So we just needed the brand to reflect that. There's a
Mhm.
certain amount of seriousness to that, right? Like, it's not kitschy, right? It needs to be serious. We needed to be able to have the right content in the right channels. Like, I think coming up with content that could speak to those business problems I mentioned before and say, look, here's how we're going to solve that. Here's our unique points of view, and double down on those channels. I think we had gotten a little bit too generous maybe with the old keyword slot machines, right? Where it's we're just going to chase those. And I think the payback just wasn't there. And so by doubling down on SEO, and I would say especially doubling down on what we saw was an emerging element of the AI aspects of SEO, with Google rotating into that last year,
Mhm.
plus the content, plus the brand refresh. That's really been the foundation of what was successful for us over the past year plus.
And
Yeah.
when you did the brand refresh makes sense. When I'm looking, it does hit right for me. If I'm looking for a serious business partner, that's the
Yep.
general feel of the place.
Good.
Yeah. But when you talk about SEO, I'd love to chat about that because it still works. And I'm curious, did you have a specific strategy? Like, I don't know, there's a lot of AI generated strategies that people have right now. There's a lot of people are really focusing, I'm finding it more on bottom of funnel keywords. And at the same time, I think, at least in the marketing community, we're all thinking like, "Hey, maybe this SEO thing is gonna not work." You know?
Yeah. It is and it isn't, right? I think it is in the sense of you do actually need to be able to measure what's happening in AI. And I mean that in a couple ways. One, what's happening with the way Google's using their on page AI, right? So
Mhm.
citations and those types of things, because we've seen that there is traffic that's just gone,
Yeah.
right? And it's basically showing up in the citation, and then it's not making it to your page. So people are getting an answer to
Yeah.
their question, and then they're not necessarily clicking through at least right then.
Mhm.
And so you better be part of the answer when they have the opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there's the other element that's showing up off Google, which is showing up in ChatGPT and
Yeah.
Perplexity and the like. And how are you feeding into those answers? And do you understand how those systems are sourcing their answers? And those are different beasts, right? And we've put a pretty significant effort into understanding those as well. And we do, in a very specific way, have a kind of a long tail keyword type of approach where we're going to say, focus on thousands of long tail keywords to kind of ladder up to high traffic head terms across the things that matter for us, and having a competitive set that makes sense based on what we're trying to compete for eyeballs for share of voice, which is sometimes different than the customers or the companies that we show up with in, it's a competitive standpoint, but it works for us and it allows us to show up so that our brand shows up when somebody's looking for those things in the knowledge management space. So it's worked relatively well so far. I will say that I think we're feeling probably what a lot of companies are feeling right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market. And so
Yeah.
being able to stand out and resonate in ways that make sense right now, it's a little different beast. I'd say since, I don't know, last month or so. What is it? It's end of April in 2025 right now is when we're recording this. So yeah, last month's been a little bit strange, I think, in terms of demand, certainly.
It's like only serious problems, please.
And that but that again, I think it's a really good point. That means you really do need to go back as marketers and understand, are you tied to those business problems that matter? And do you have a point of view that matters? And do you have a value you can very clearly tie to that says, one, this is a business problem we're solving, and the cost of delaying is more than the cost of moving forward.
Yeah. It's fundamentals, huh?
It is
Yeah.
a fundamentals question.
And one of the things I want to start asking folks about is, what is your retargeting strategy? I find that some businesses have some very advanced retargeting, others don't need it. They just, okay, let's remind them that we exist. How do you handle retargeting for a product like Bloomfire AI?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important for us. We've noticed that when it comes down to it from a customer journey standpoint, folks do spend a large amount of time coming back to the site, exploring kind of that customer journey with us, learning more about the product, reading about the thought leadership. And so getting them to come back to the site is critical. Bringing folks back through investment in quality content, right? So showing up and saying, hey, we've got a webinar, you should come listen to that, or showing up in a different content piece or in a channel that they're going to read. We actually just last week had a nice piece in HVR around the value of enterprise intelligence, which is tied to one of those big pieces of content
Hmm.
around looking at results from some survey work we did with our customers that really ties back to that. Hey, look, like, you're actually undervaluing the knowledge. If you took a CFO's perspective, you'd recognize this is a strategic asset. And so we featured that in HVR and then linked that back. And so bringing people back to the site with that.
I
And then
love.
having full campaigns around it too. LinkedIn rewards you for not sending people off LinkedIn. We know that,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it's LinkedIn is the ultimate closed loop thing. It's, you definitely don't want to put the link in the post. You got to put that link in the comments or else it completely throttles you. But we have seen that, when we use that appropriately, you can get people to re-engage on the site. And then that kind of brings them back to the customer journey where they left off. And then if they're at that conversion point, they eventually will convert. So you really do have to be a surround sound marketer from a
Hmm.
retargeting standpoint, using intent data the right way.
Hmm.
That's another way I think for retargeting, if done smartly, you can use that to bring them back at the right point and say, "Hey, remember us?"
Remember
Those
us?
types of things. Yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me of one of my favorite little things when you mentioned the Harvard Business Review article. I love sending people have been to the website to these other PR items. Don't have to worry if they come back. It's one more little piece in the buying journey, another moment considering the problem. I love that maneuver. Yeah.
And too, like, selling into enterprise, right? Like, it's not a this isn't take out your Visa and
Yeah.
buy, right? It's slower and you do it, and it's you're considering these things, right? There's a buying team around this, so it has to be brought along, and you have to have a champion, and that's you need to make it readily available to be able to say, when I'm ready to talk to somebody, there's someone there, and that they've got the consideration they need to be able to say, yeah, we've done a lot of work and we're ready. We try to have enough ready for them so that they can get as educated as they need to be to have that right decision.
Yeah. What do you think that CEOs and CMOs are getting wrong right now in 2025? When you look at how marketing, I swear, is shifting every 2 weeks. It's like a massive shift. Something's possible now.
I think ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's a good question. I'm struggling because I've got it figured out.
Yeah.
And the reality is that I've been marketed to for a very long time in the roles I've been in these big companies, right? And I think it still comes down to when I've made decisions about the software partners that I've chosen. One of the reasons I'm in the chair at Bloomfire, man, is because I actually bought Bloomfire. Like I was a customer before I
Hmm.
was CMO.
Hmm.
And part of the reason I bought Bloomfire beyond the product was the team and the partnership I felt in the team. I think that's very true. If you're going to spend 50, 100, 200,000, $500,000 on a software partnership, whatever that number
On
is, right?
anything that
Right.
expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything of that sort, like, you're not just buying zeros and ones on a screen, you're buying a partnership, and the more you can get across as a CMO and then as a CEO of this company, "Look, we're building this together, like, you have a seat at the table, we're bringing this together, and ultimately, when you're successful, we're successful." I think that's really what a lot of the buyers are gonna wanna hear. And
Hmm.
so our view of the world is that there is a lot of rushing into the layer of AI on top of data that really isn't ready for it.
Hmm.
And what we wanna be able to do is to provide that layer of AI that's automated and connected in a way that's going to allow for the best outcome for a company to be the most intelligent, most productive, and ultimately successful company it can be, and we can get there together. So, yeah, I think just remember, like, this is a partnership and it requires that partnership to be successful. And it's again, it's a message I need to make sure I'm reminding myself and my team that we're doubling down on those types of things. So,
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan.
yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.